Hi, and welcome to the Class of 2022 Senior Presentation. This is Andrea McBrier. She is the counselor for students in 10th through 12th grade, last names A through F. This is Becky Campbell. She is the counselor for students in 10th through 12th grade, last names G through M. I'm Casey Scott. I am the counselor for students 10th through 12th grade, last names N through Z. And this is Hoppy Merriman. She is a senior advisor and is going to be helping alongside of us counselors, all of the seniors at ACHS with college and financial aid questions. Let's get started. I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Campbell.
First of all, I'd like to invite you to join the Google Classroom of 2022. The code to join that is on the screen right now. It's EAIT2T64. That's on the screen, so please join that. That's going to give so much information about scholarships, Tennessee Promise, deadlines, lots of resources, and so much information, so you definitely want to do that. Okay, so let's start kind of with the end in mind. Let's talk about being recognized at graduation. There's actually 3 ways that you will be recognized at graduation, okay? So in order to qualify, the first one is the honorific distinction. So students who have met all the ACT benchmarks and have qualifying weighted GPA at the end of the 7th semester will be recognized as follows. So students who have a weighted GPA of 3.5 to 3.79 will graduate cum laude. Students with a weighted GPA of 3.8 to 3.9 will graduate magna cum laude, and students with a weighted GPA of 4.0 and above will graduate summa cum laude. So the second way to graduate with recognition would be to graduate with distinction. So students who have at least a 3.0 and have one of the following. You have a nationally recognized industrial certification. You have participated in a governor's school. You have participated in an all-state music organization. You have been selected as a national merit finalist or a semifinalist. You have obtained a 31 or higher on the composite on your ACT. You have earned 12 or more hours of college credit, or you have earned a 3 or higher on 2 AP exams. So the last one is graduates with honors. All these students would have to qualify by their ACT readiness benchmarks, and they are as follows. English, you have to have an 18. Math, you have to have a 22. Reading, 22. And science, a 23. So let's shift gears for a second and talk about dual enrollment. Dual enrollment is a great opportunity for our students. This is an opportunity for our students to both get high school credit, but also get college credit. So students have several opportunities to take these courses through Roane State. Some of the courses have ACT requirements, so be aware that some of the courses have requirements in English, which you would have to have an 18, a 19 in reading, a 19 in math, or sometimes they just look at your unweighted GPA. So if you are interested in these courses and you haven't taken any or you would like to get some more, please see your counselor after you get your ACT scores, and we can talk to you about that and if you qualify. So let's talk about what you should do now. So when you start thinking about the colleges that you want to go to, there is a resource of information on the web. So I would encourage you to start researching your academic programs. Look at the colleges that you want to go to. Look and see if they have the available major that you're interested in. Look at their application requirements. Do you meet the ACT scores? Do you need to retake the ACT scores? Do they require a letter of recommendation? Also, be sure to look at the deadlines and mark your calendar for when things are due. Also, pay careful attention to the cost and scholarships. You want to see if this college is a viable option for you. And of course, you may you probably want to visit the college. Go step foot on the campus of the place that you're thinking about going. For some reason, I'm not sure why, but it makes a huge difference. If you step onto that university, you get a great feeling for, is this a place that I could stay and study and enjoy being there? So make sure you make a visit if you possibly can. Now, because we are in COVID, some of the colleges may be offering some virtual tours as well. So if you can't go visit, then make sure you see if they have a virtual tour that's available. One of the things I would encourage you to do is make a list of the different colleges that you're thinking of. Maybe even make a list of maybe the dream school that you would love to go to. It might be out of reach right now to you financially. It could be out of reach academically. But go ahead and put it down. See what you think. Then maybe have a realistic school that you could possibly get in, that you would probably get into, not possibly, but probably get into. And then maybe a backup school, somewhere that you know for sure that you could get in, and it could be your backup in case something happens with the other schools. Okay, so let's talk about ACT. One of the things that people always ask is, should I take the ACT again? Well, that's dependent on a lot of factors. One of the things you need to think of is, where am I going to go? So for instance, if you're going to enroll at Roan State Community College, if you want to enroll without having to take any remedial classes, you would need at least an 18 in English, a 19 in math, and a 19 in reading. Now, if you want to shift gears and think about a school maybe like UT Knoxville, the average ACT for freshmen entering UT Knoxville is a 26.8. If you think about UT Chattanooga, it's a 23.4. If you want to talk about some of those upper level schools like the Vanderbilts or the Dukes, you're thinking about an average of a 33 to a 35. And sometimes only 6.7% of the applicants are admitted into there. So these are schools that some of our best students apply to, but may or may not be eligible or be accepted. So there's also schools that are test optional applications. For instance, UT Knoxville is offering one of those this year. So you need to make sure you're looking at your websites, you're checking out your schools, and you're seeing what kind of things they offer this year. So next thing let's talk about is TCAT. This is another great opportunity we have for our students. And this is an opportunity that is paid for by your Tennessee Promise. Tennessee Promise will pay for your tuition and fees. So TCAT is a popular option these days. And some of those programs are very competitive to get into. For instance, the health science courses often look at your ACT scores and they look at your HESI scores. So make sure that you're keeping your grades up and make sure that you're keeping those ACT scores up. A lot of the programs at TCAT have waiting lists, so make sure that you apply as soon as possible. The applications are typically online. One of the things that you need to make sure you do is to remember your username and password. This is a barrier that a lot of students have a hard time with, so we just can't emphasize enough for you to remember your username and password. And also, you have to complete your FAFSA and your shot recommendations in order to get on those wait lists. So make sure you take care of that. Community colleges. So community colleges are schools like Roan State, Pellissippi, and Tennessee Promise will pay for the tuition and the fees for these as well. Community colleges offer a great deal of different programs. They offer programs for students that want to enter the transfer pathway, which basically is students that are intending to go to a four-year college, so they're taking their general education requirements with them. They also have some different career programs. These are things that you should certainly check out on the school website. You'll need to apply online. This just takes about, 10 or 15 minutes. Typically the window opens sometime in September, And the good news is that we're going to help you through this. We're going to host a community college day on September the 21st. Some of the things that we have to gather in order for you to do this will be, in addition to applying online, will be your transcript, and they also require a copy of your driver's license and a shop record. So lastly, let's talk about four-year colleges and universities. So these applications are typically more complex. They take a little bit more time to do. They often require a personal statement, sometimes a letter of recommendation or an essay. Often they have an earlier deadline, typically November or December, so be sure to check that out. They may have a separate deadline for scholarships. For instance, University of Tennessee, Knoxville, their deadline for scholarships is November the 1st. They also may have a deadline for the last ACT that they are willing to accept, so make sure you check that out as well. A safe bet is usually using your October ACT as the last one. Sometimes the ACT that's taken in December will be accepted as well, but the October is the best bet. So one thing that I want to emphasize is that every school is different, so you just need to know your schools. So right now I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Scott. She's going to be talking about scholarships.
So scholarships is something that we've been hearing about for a long time in our schools. We talk to students about grades and ACTs and GPAs and all of those things that can help us get money for college. And I know that's a big barrier for a lot of students and a big thing to think about when you're considering a school. So I want to talk about some of the options that we have. So scholarships and money for college kind of fall into three different categories. The first one is grants, the second one is scholarships, and the third one is loans. Grants are typically income-based and sometimes are a result of filling out your FAFSA, which we're going to talk about in just a minute. And those are things that you don't have to pay back. So grants are a really good thing if you can get those in your financial aid package. Scholarships are things that are offered by some kind of organization. Institutional scholarships are offered by the school that you're going to. So UTK, for example, will offer some scholarships for their students from their school. And outside scholarships are things from organizations maybe in the community, maybe national organizations, but somewhere outside of the school that you're planning to attend that may be offering some money. You also don't have to pay scholarships back, so those are some good things to look for in your financial aid package. The third thing is loans. Students do qualify for loans for themselves. So you hear a lot about student loans, and every student will qualify for loans, and parents can also qualify for loans depending on income and other requirements. Those are things you obviously have to pay back, so that's something to consider and make sure you understand when you're looking at your financial aid packages, the difference between the ones you pay back and the ones that you don't, because sometimes they look really similar on the piece of paper. So let's talk about institutional scholarships for just a minute. As I mentioned a minute ago, every school has scholarships that they offer to students that plan to attend. Let's look at some examples. The web is a great resource, as Ms. Campbell mentioned. Every school will have a website, and sort of the easiest thing I think to do is to go to that website, go to the search bar, and just type in scholarships and see what comes up. Many schools offer guaranteed scholarships based on your ACT and your GPA. Let's look at UT Knoxville for an example. If you have a 3.8 weighted core GPA, that means they look at your English, your math, your science, your social studies, and your foreign language and recalculate your GPA. And a super score on your ACT of the following: 34 to 36, you'll get $9,000 a year. 30 to 33, you'll get $5,000 a year. And 28 to 29, you'll get $3,000 a year. So those are simply based on your ACT and your GPA, and as long as you apply by December 15th, you will get that money if you have those qualifying scores. Now let's look at MTSU. With a 3.5 GPA and a 25 ACT, you can earn $4,500 a year towards your tuition. They also have scholarships that start at a 23 and go all the way up to a 36. For those scholarships, you have to apply by December 1st, and you also have to have an ACT score to your school by December 1st. So if you think about what Ms. Campbell said a minute ago, that would mean the October ACT would be your last option to qualify for those scholarships at MTSU, and you would need to make sure that that score is received by the school by December 1st. Now, some schools will take super scores. Some will look at your weighted GPA. Some will look at unweighted. Some look at 6th semester GPA, some look at 7th semester GPA. And I know all that is very confusing because every school is different. Just referencing what Ms. Campbell said, it's super important to know your schools, know the deadlines, know the ACT scores that they take, and know the GPA that they take. Otherwise, you might be really disappointed when you're looking at your financial aid package. I would recommend that you start a spreadsheet and you put the school's name in a column and then put the deadlines and the ACT and GPA types that are required for those scholarships so that you know exactly what you're dealing with when you're looking at those schools. Now, the lottery scholarship. This is something we've been talking to you about since you were in 8th grade. The application for the lottery is actually the FAFSA. A lot of students will ask how you apply for the lottery scholarship. Doing your FAFSA will be the application for that. To earn the lottery scholarship in Tennessee, you have to have a 3.0 rank or lottery GPA. If you notice on your transcript, you'll see a rank lottery GPA and a weighted GPA. So we're looking at that rank lottery GPA, and that's at the end of the 8th semester. So that's all the way through to graduation. You need to have a 3.0 to qualify, or a 21 composite on your ACT. Now, the lottery is a Tennessee scholarship, so you must attend a Tennessee qualified school in order to receive that and have those qualifying scores. The amount for that is $3,500 at a 4-year, $3,000 at a 2-year, and $2,000 at TCAT. That's also called the Wilder-NAFI, but it is a part of the lottery scholarship. The lottery also offers some supplementary scholarships that go along with the amounts that I just listed. The GAMS, it stands for General Assembly Merit Scholarship. If you have a 29 composite ACT and a 3.75 rank or lottery GPA at the end of the 8th semester, you can earn an additional $500 per semester on that. And you can also earn an Aspire Award if your parents' adjusted gross income is $36,000 or less. That could be up to $750 per semester. That's something that when we do your FAFSA, we can look at that and see if you may potentially qualify. But those are just some supplementary awards on the Hope Lottery Scholarship. Okay, Tennessee Promise, Ms. Campbell has referenced that, and that is an eligible scholarship at community college or technical programs like TCAT. This is a last dollar scholarship program that will pay the tuition and fees at those community colleges or at TCAT. It is important to note the student is still responsible for books or tools or other non-mandatory fees. So it doesn't mean you won't owe anything when you arrive. It just means you won't owe anything on tuition and fees when you arrive. So just kind of plan for that. The way that you can get the Tennessee Promise Scholarship, the first thing you have to do is apply by November 1st. You can apply at tennesseepromise.gov. For those of you that have done the dual enrollment grant before, it's the same website and the same username and password. We'll be around to help you with that, but if you need help with that, you can come see your counselor. If you need help with your username and password, we can help you get that reset if you have lost it or can't remember it. So that's step 1, is to apply by November 1st. You also have to complete the FAFSA by February 1st of 2022. You'll also have to attend a mandatory meeting as coordinated by a partnering organization. Our first meeting is actually going to be on November the 18th at 8:45 at ACHS, so that'll be during the school day, so go ahead and plan to attend that. And you must complete 8 hours of community service by July 1st, 2022, and you will need to submit that on the website in order to get credit for that. Related to that, Tennessee Promise is specific to community colleges and TCAT's associate degree programs and 2-year programs, but there are some 4-year schools that are offering some similar things as far as last dollar tuition scholarships. UT started the UT Promise for students attending UTK, UTC, or UT Martin. You must meet income requirements for that and some other requirements, so check that out if you have questions. ETSU is also offering a last dollar scholarship if you meet income requirements and other requirements. So I would encourage you, when you're looking at your schools, to ask or to research whether or not they have some of these last dollar tuition programs similar to Tennessee Promise, because it could help you get more tuition paid. All right, now I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Hoppy Merriman. She will be talking to you about financial aid and the FAFSA.
Like Ms. Campbell has said and Ms. Scott, there are a lot of ways to get financial aid. Scholarships are huge. We are very blessed in Anderson County to have a lot of folks who are interested in helping our students. So we have a good number of local scholarships, but there are also scholarships on the state, regional, and national level. There are some search sites that are out there. FastWeb is one of our favorites to use. But I am happy to show you some search sites, or just Google college scholarships. You will find some things related to scholarships there. Also, parents, I would encourage you to check with your employers. Many employers have scholarships that they have for your children. You don't know about them or think about them until you have a child going to college, but check with your Human Resources Department and see if you have any kind of scholarships available at your place of employment. Scholarships will be advertised through the Google Classroom. There will also be emails coming to your students from me and from your counselors that are giving scholarship information. We really do count on the kids to check their emails because it's impossible to get everything to every individual person that might apply for them. So students, please do be reading your email. We don't want you to miss out on any potential dollars that you could get. One great place to look for some scholarships and also do some research on college cost is collegefortn.org. So I encourage you to get on that website and check that out. Now, when it comes to the FAFSA, a lot of parents did not fill out a FAFSA. When I went to college, they just asked you a bunch of questions like, what does your family do and where do they work? And then if they thought you qualified for aid, they would fill out the paperwork for you or have you, sign some documents. The world's changed, and this is one of the ways that it's changed. All of us are required to do a FAFSA if we want to get any money at all. The institution will not give you any money. The state will not give you any money. The federal government will not give you money. So we all do a FAFSA so we can get our name in there for every dollar that might be available for our students to receive an education. So what does this mean, FAFSA? We keep saying this word. Free application for federal student aid. The website is FAFSA.gov. If you go to a website, or if you just Google FAFSA, it's going to take you to some websites where they ask you to pay for this application. Think about that. Free application. We shouldn't be paying to do a free application. So when it's time to do FAFSAs, we want to make sure that we use FAFSA.gov. We cannot do a FAFSA until October 1st. There is a FAFSA out there, but it applies to students who are in college this year. So we urge you, wait till October 1st to start this FAFSA. We're going to have a help session on October 5th at Anderson County High School. We're going to give the ACT that morning, and then we'll have a help session once the ACT ends up until 8 p.m. We are going to need parents and students involved in that, and we're going to show you what you need, and that will explain why we need both students and parents together. Everyone is going to have to do a FAFSA, even if you think you're going to go to the military or you're not sure you want to go to any kind of post-secondary training. Let's just do a FAFSA so that there's money there in case you change your mind. At 17 and 18, there's a lot of mind changing going on. So let's just make sure we put that in place so we have money on the table. FAFSA is a two-step process. We have to create a username and password for the student and for the parent. I'd like to say this is an easy process, but then I'd be lying, and you'd have to go to church and pray for me. This is not an easy process. It's a workable process. Then once you get a username and a password, you go into the FAFSA and start completing the application. Like many government websites, the questions are a little tricky. One of my favorite questions to talk about is the question, what is the marital status of my biological parents? But it doesn't say biological. That's the way a student reads it. When you ask a student, what is the marital status of my parents, they think about their biological mom and dad most of the time. That's not the question at all. What is the marital status of your parents actually means what is the marital status of the parent you're putting on this form. That's one of the most common mistakes on FAFSA. That's why we have big workshops for you to come in and get help so that we don't make those mistakes. When you do your FAFSA, you're going to have to bring some stuff. We got to have social security numbers of parents and students, cell phone numbers of parents and students, email addresses, a student driver's license, and all of your tax information. The tax year that we will use for seniors this year will be taxes from 2020. Those are the ones that you just filed in January, February, March, whenever you filed. So make sure that you have those on hand so we can use those in October. If you have untaxed income, you probably want to bring records of that. And there's going to be a question that asks you how much you have in checking and savings. So make sure you have a good idea about what those account balances might be. Lots of times people ask me, why does my kid have to put my income on their FAFSA? The answer to that question is because it's a federal law. Sometimes people think if their student files their own income tax, they're an independent. Not according to FAFSA. Here's a list of all the things that make you an independent on FAFSA. The most common one that we see with seniors is students who have been in foster care or been a ward of the court or are in legal guardianship. If you have questions about whether your student qualifies, please see your counselor or get in touch with me. We'll check the documents that we have to see what that status might be. I love this slide when I saw it because this is how I feel at the end of FAFSA season. We will do probably about 500 FAFSAs in Anderson County this year. And I don't know if I look like this at the end, but I do feel like it. I have a great time working with you. I love your kids and I love your family. And it's okay if I run around with a watermelon on my head. I don't want you to run around with a watermelon on your head. So take my number down. If you want to get started now and talk about college and the cost, shoot me a text. We'll make a meeting and we will talk about what might apply to your student, what kind of aid you might get, and get an idea of maybe how much we need to find in scholarships or what we can do to best serve your student and your family. Another example of cost and a way to kind of see this in the numbers is what does one semester cost? If you look at this example, this would be typical of East Tennessee State, Middle Tennessee State. University of Tennessee is a little more expensive than this. But if your student were going to live on one of those campuses, your cost would be about $10,250. If your student gets a Hope Lottery scholarship, you can deduct $1,750 for the semester, leaving you with a payment of $8,500. Once we start adding academic scholarships, local scholarships, maybe some state scholarships, maybe a Pell Grant, we can start chiseling that $8,500 down. And then you and your student will have to decide, is that a reasonable amount of money for us to invest in college each semester for 8 semesters? Once we get to that point, we're looking and talking about student loans. Now, I want to go on record to say no one in Anderson County wants to promote your child going into debt. However, there are times that that's appropriate. And if it is, here are 3 types of aid that might be available to your student. I say might be because on the left, the subsidized student loan is not available to all students. That one is going to be determined by income. Some students are only going to get unsubsidized loans where they are going to have to pay interest. We'll know that when your financial aid package comes back, and we can review that. Parents, you can get a loan. These are today's interest rates. That doesn't mean they'll be the interest rates next year, but there are other ways for you to take out loans that might be better for your family. If that's the case, then definitely be looking at those. How much can you borrow? There is a maximum amount. When you hear about people owing $80,000 or $90,000 for college, it wasn't because they borrowed all that in the same year. So if you look at this bar graph, you can see that the most that a student would get subsidized would be $3,500 in their first year. So that would be the biggest amount of money that your student could borrow without any interest. The rest of it, interest starts the day they get it. And as parents and adults, we've all borrowed money and we all know what happens with interest. So those are conversations that are going to need to take place with your family and with your student so that everyone understands what all of these loans kind of mean. As you see, second year and third year, you can get a bigger loan from the federal government, but you're never going to be able to get a federal loan for the entire cost of a college. So as we continue to talk about financial aid, this is a package deal where we're going to help you find all the money that we can help you find. And then when we get to February or March, we'll make a decision. That leads us back to Ms. Scott's comment about Tennessee Promise. Everyone needs to do it because when we get to the end of this thing, we might be deciding to go to community college because it might be the best deal for your family and for your student. So, going to turn it over to Ms. McBrayer so she can tell you how to get started right now.
All right. So I know everybody's probably feeling a little overwhelmed right now, so we're going to kind of bullet point this for you. So what can students do now? You can start those four-year applications. Look at those schools and see where you want to apply to. Get your resume ready. Any leadership that you've had involved within school or out of school, community involvement, volunteering, etc. Make sure that you get that on there. Get your recommenders in mind. So any school that requires letters of recommendation, you want to think about those people that you would like to write that for you. Teachers, counselors, principals, no one that is related to you. Get your calendar or spreadsheet, as Mrs. Scott said a minute ago, so you have a list of all your deadlines and you know when those requirements are. Now, research scholarships for selected schools. You just can Google that and see what comes up. And you definitely want to work on your ACT score if that's relevant. Obviously, we talked about the one on October the 5th. So if you want to see your score from that and then go ahead and sign up for some more if that score is going to help you get more scholarship money. And work on your essay or personal statements. So that would be for those scholarships that require that and for applications that require that. All right, so what can your parents do now? Help gather information and get organized. So schools and scholarships, deadlines, tax information, so all of that will be really important for parents to get organized. And then you're going to want to communicate with your son or daughter about your budget. You're going to have college comparison topics, and you want to be realistic about that. So again, talking about the ACT, so the registration will be in school this fall. All seniors will take the ACT at our school on October the 5th, and that is free for all of our Anderson County students, Anderson County high school students. And then after that, there will be tests offered at Clinton High School that would be $60 per test on October 23rd, which you would need to register by September 17th, and December 11th, register by November the 5th. And there will be other tests available, but you will need to go to act.org and register there for any other tests in our area. Okay, so you feeling really overwhelmed and confused now? Don't worry, we got you. Your counselor will be meeting with you one-on-one, all seniors. We will be having conferences that begin on August 31st. So any questions you have, any concerns, you can bring it up at that conference. And then we have a lot of resources. College Next Guide is the senior year workbook that's in the Google Classroom. You can download that anytime. College for Tennessee, the FAFSA help, obviously, with Hoppy Merriman. She would love to help you with that. And then the TCAT Outreach Specialist, Rita Turchetta, her name and email is also there. She's also a great resource. And if you need any other help, your counselors are always here for you.
Thank you so much for joining us for our senior presentation. We're here to help you, so if you have any questions after that, you're free to email your counselor, come by and see your counselor, email Ms. Merriman, or text Ms. Merriman. We want to work together with you and your student to help you get the best plan for success after you graduate high school.